My name is Danielle, and this is my third time that I've been at Unity. And I have to tell you that every time I have come here, it has been such a joy. As soon as I walk through these doors, there's such a welcoming presence. So I really want to thank you, because I think this is my favorite place to come. And I have to be honest, Sundays I'm usually up on the mountain, that's my church. But I love being here with you, so thank you so much for having me here today. I want to ask you, we're talking about in the presence of love. But it's one thing to talk about being present and talking about love, and it's another thing to feel it. So, you know, when we were connecting with our breath, right? And when we were opening our hearts, and when that energy of connecting with the hearts of everyone else in this room, who here felt an energy shift within them? It's incredible, isn't it? It takes 1 second. 1 second of coming into presence and realizing I'm connected. And there's love all around me. And when we connect in that way and we feel it, immediately there's an upsurge. There's love, there's support for us all the time. But it's so easy to forget about it because we're in our head and we're in the to-do list and we're go, go, go. But it's coming back to that presence. It's living from that space of presence. It's making choices from that place of presence. And I find often myself, especially in these days when there's so much being spoken, hollered, our world around us is not only loud, but it's gotten really quick and fast. It's really easy to forget and to slip out of that. So I find it helpful for myself to think about how often I'm safe. This morning, I wanted to ask you, how often were you in an energy of feeling safe? When you woke up, were you safe? When you got dressed in your present situation, were you safe? When we were connecting our hearts, did you feel safe? Me too. Our mind doesn't like us to think about that because our mind is always anticipating danger. Our mind is constantly thinking about how to protect. And that's okay, that's its job. But when we rely on it, we begin to spend our time anticipating danger and anticipating fear. And so we live in this edge of what if, what could. And then we start to pull up everything that's happened in our past. And then we amplify it into the future. And then we go all crazy because we're in this place of feeling unsafe. And I find it very incredible to just sit in that moment and go, here and now, in this moment, right now. Are you safe? Am I safe? And I am. Are you? So there's a peace that comes, right? Can you feel that peace that comes when I realize I'm safe right now? And I want to invite you to just breathe that peace in. Because when you acknowledge that you're safe and that there's peace, then you are peace. You become the peace. And ooh-wee, then we're cooking with gas, right? Because there's only two choices in this world, and I think of it as kind of a two-step. There's two temples that we can worship at. One is the temple of love, and we know it well. I'm singing to the choir here. You are here because we all agree that this is the one that we want, and we want to embody and we want to live. Then there's the other one, the temple of fear. And the temple of fear is really sneaky. It's always there, it's always talking, it's in the mind. And it's constantly in the drama. It's hungry. I think of the mind as that hungry ghost. It's the ego, it's the thoughts. And that wants to control. That's the temple of control. The other one is the temple of connection. Love allows. Fear resists. Love is inclusive. And we hop right back over here. Fear is exclusive. Fear is always trying to convince you that it's the only choice. It's the only option. There's no other way. So whenever I'm in a situation in my life where I think I've got no other solution in front of me, I know I'm in fear. And in that moment, I need to get right back over to this temple. It's a two-step, it's a dance. And I guarantee that if you think about it, you're doing a lot of this during the day, back and forth. And I also guarantee that you can't have a foot in both at the same time. You're in one or you're in the other. And it's okay how many times you're in fear. No shame in that. What matters is coming back over. Because each time you go from fear into love, you are empowering. You are liberating. And you are recreating your life. And you're not just recreating your life in the moment, but when you come into this place of love and you decide that this is the energy that you want to create with, you're not only transforming the present, you are creating infinite potentials and possibilities for a new way forward, and you are transforming the past. Because when you're in a place of love and then you look back, you start to see it in a whole different way. You start to realize the gifts, the light, the strength, and you can bring that love in all directions and transform. So to me, we're always doing this dance. We're all in it, right? So the question is, how do we stay in the presence of love? Well, I had an opportunity about 20 years ago to meet an incredible wisdom keeper who was about yay high at the time. It was 20 years ago, and I was in Brazil, and I was at a healing sanctuary, and I had been going there for a number of years for my own healing, but at this point in time, I was doing what I called the sharing project, because over the years of my own self-healing and transformation, I had witnessed so many miracles, not just in my own life, but in other people's lives. And so many other people in these places that I was going all over the world, in really remote areas, were also experiencing profound things. So I would sit with them. And they weren't interviews. They were this opportunity to be together in compassionate listening and appreciative inquiry. I would tell my story, all the shameful parts, all the scary parts. They would share theirs. And there was always these incredible truths that would come. And I learned so much from the wisdom of everyday people. But this particular individual was probably the shortest sharing that I did. And over the span of 8 years, I did 94 of these. This was the shortest, but that's because she got right to the point. Her name was Elsie. She was from Dublin, Ireland. She was 9, going on 10. And the very first thing she said to me right out of the gate, she took my microphone. She said, "I wasn't always a positive person, you know. I was 7 years old before I knew I had a choice." I'm telling you, I was in the presence of a master. And I know I was. It was so true. I was struggling with how to stay positive with things that were going on, and she said it right there. I had a choice. Choice. It lit up. And I started to realize choice. Whenever I'm in that temple of fear, it's always telling me that I don't have a choice. But if I tell myself I have choice, even if I don't know what the choice is yet, but I say I have choice, I begin this incredible voyage from here, the mind, down into my heart. Because love is inclusive. And this is a love-based universe because we have free will. Everything is possible. There are infinite options. Nature doesn't judge. Nature doesn't say good, bad, right, wrong. There simply is. And whatever it is that I choose and whatever it is that you choose, we'll create. That's the magnificence of being creators. So when I'm stuck in a situation and I'm feeling terrified, which has happened a lot, I have to remind myself I have choice, even if I don't know what the choice is. And I like to add this extra part to it. I have choice, and out of this only good will come. And I leave it at that. I know I'm far enough along now that I know that I don't need to have the answers. I need to stay open. That's my job. Because every time I open and I begin that great long journey, because the journey is the destination, right? From the mind, from the fear of the head and into the heart, every time I say I have choice, and out of this only good will come. My work is to stay in that space, to stay present to that. And extraordinary things always happen. But they don't always happen right away. And so there's a part of me that says, sometimes, I've been doing this for 24 hours. You know what? God, source, creation, I'm going to take over because clearly I'm on a timeline. So there's also that patience and that trust. Trust. It's a way of living, of looking at life as an opportunity of choice. And I have a choice in every given moment in how I want to look at things. And I was thinking about this before I came in to talk with you today because I was asking my heart what I most needed to know right now, and it was calm faith. And I was thinking back to my life because I'm going to make a true confession. I'm a serial meanderer. I've traveled all my life. The first time that I left home and went to Europe alone, I was 14 years old. My parents were very open. At one point, even in my 20s, I remember putting my boxes in my parents' garage and saying, I'll be back in 3 months. 17 years later, I came back to Canada, where I'm from. I have spent most of my life in countries and in places, some of the most densely populated cities, as well as some of the most remote jungles on the earth. And I have spent all of that time never having a clue where I'm going. Each time I've moved to a country, I haven't known anyone, I haven't had anything set up. I always look at what I've got in my pocket. And as a result, life has been an adventure. I like that you use that word, because sometimes adventures are pretty darn scary, but it's an opportunity of choice of how you want to look at it. They're never dull. They're never dull. And as a result, I've had a lot of situations that have taught me, not just the people that I was meeting, but the experiences. I've lost my home in an earthquake. I went through a couple of floods. But the one that I was thinking about most importantly, when I was thinking about Elsie, was the time that I left my beloved home in Australia. And I was at the lowest I'd ever been. Everything that a person could lose in a short amount of time, I had lost. My heart was broken. I was devastated. And I was dealing with a diagnosis of cancer that was really aggressive. I had to leave Australia. I fast forward, and I am in New York City. I have $650 to my name. I have a bag, and I'm looking at a rat-infested room in Chinatown that I'm about to rent. I know you're laughing, but I was literally thinking, things are looking up. Things are looking up. I've got my own space. I had a little job. It was September 1st, 2001. Do you know where we're going with this? I went down 10 days. I was feeling things are looking up. Things are looking up, and I walked down to my office where I was supposed to work that day, and it was 3 blocks away from the World Trade Center. Fast forward a couple of hours later, I'm in Union Square. Me and everybody else who's displaced, in shock. I don't have a wallet. I have nothing on me. I'm no longer feeling like things are looking up. Fast forward a couple of more days, and I've been able to access my passport, and I'm on a bus going to Canada. And in Canada, I had family, I had friends. There was so much warmth and welcoming to me. But I had also been I had front seat views, and I had been the first eyewitness that they had put in Canadian news about what I had seen. So when I got to Canada, everybody wanted to talk about where I was coming from, and it was so overwhelming. I was terrified. How do I even process 14 hours away from where I've been? So I went for a walk in the forest, and as I was walking, I was thinking, I'm safe now. I'm safe. I'm safe. And this little tiny biplane went by, like a tiny little thing, and I saw it and I hit the ground. And that's when I realized I'm not safe. And it's not the tiny biplane, it's what's going on inside of me. And then I began to realize that if I stayed in Canada, it's as much as it felt really good, I thought it would feel really good. I was sick already. And not to mention, I've just inhaled all of this asbestos and toxins. Now I'm really sick. It made so much logical sense. The mind was like, stay here. I have family. I have friends. I have community. Now when I look back at it, I realize that in that moment, that choice was being made in the altar of fear. I was thinking about staying in Canada only because it was the safest option, based in fear. And there was something inside of me that was wanting me to go back, and it didn't feel comfortable, I have to be honest. It wasn't one of those, oh, hallelujah, I know what I want. No, it was a really uncomfortable feeling. But that was the altar of love. That was my essence self. I didn't know it at the time. And I'm sharing this with you because oftentimes when we move from the altar of fear, the temple of fear, and we go into the temple of love and we need to make a choice, it's not comfortable. Choosing the loving path is not always comfortable. Oftentimes it means forging a path ahead that you're breaking ground. Fast forward to 3 days later, I think it was 3 days, I'm back on a bus going back to New York. I don't have a place to stay, I have no work, I have no money, I'm very sick. I'm not going to stand here and say it was easy. That first year was so hard. And yet, I didn't know it at the time, but that was a catalyst moment in my life where I was consciously choosing to invest, consciously choosing to listen to my spirit and to listen to where life was guiding me, no matter the challenge. And the most extraordinary things happen because when you're there, and I just want to say there's that, you know that saying, seeing is believing? My experience is they've got that all wrong. It's believing is seeing. You have to open up. You don't have to believe, but you have to be willing to open. And even if it's a 0.00001% open to what source, what your own essence is going to bring you in, even if it's only 0.0001%, that's okay. Source can work with that. But every moment that you go back in, every moment when you come back into that presence and you say, I am here, I am ready, I am willing, I'm safe in this moment, and I'm choosing love. I'm choosing. And I know I have choice, and out of this only good will come. That's my job. That's my job, is to keep the door open. And then you're operating with magic. So then you can start to recognize the miracles, because the miracles are happening every single day. And they're happening around us all the time. But we need to have the eyes to see them, and we have to have the ears to hear them. So it's that practice. So I love and I give thanks to Elsie, who is, at 9 years old, taught me something so amazing. Choice. I just need to remember I have choice. We don't need to always know what the choice is. Because, let's be honest, if we knew everything that the choice might involve, we might go, nah, maybe tomorrow. Or, ooh, I don't know about this because it's going to take me down a path that I don't know, that's so very different from my past. So there's a blessing in that faith, that darkness of faith. So how do we cultivate that? How do we keep our strength up? How do we meet it? One of the things that I find most helpful is not to bond in pain. Don't bond in pain. And what I mean by that is meeting others and sharing from that place of pain and complaint. Yes, we all go through challenges, but there's a very different energy between saying, I feel afraid, and I am afraid. I am afraid is worshiping at that altar, at that temple of fear. I feel afraid is honoring and acknowledging a feeling, but it's not who you are, it's not your identity. So I find it most helpful to process my fear in a respectful way, to feel it, to allow myself to feel it, to go out into nature, to sing, to cry, to write, to do whatever it is that you want to do that feels right, to release it, but do not bond in it. Because when you bond in it, your vibration goes down, your energy goes down, and it gets very, very hard to keep that door open to the magic and the miracles. Another thing that I notice is hold your tone. And I think about this all the time because everything is energy. Every thought, every word, every action is energy. We're constantly creating. We're either creating what we prefer or what we don't prefer. So I like to ask myself the question of, what is it that I most need? And I ask my heart, what is it that you most need? What is it that I most want to see in this world around me? Yesterday, it was calm trust. So my tone was to stay calm and trusting. What I want to see out there is what is the opportunity for me to be for myself. Let me embody calm trust. Let me be what it is that I want to see in this world. If you want to see more freedom and respect, then the tone that you want to meet with every day is, how can I be respectful? How can every response that I have be one of respect? Because here's the thing, none of us can control what life brings to us. We have no control over what life gives us. We do have control in how we meet it. And we can either be at the temple of fear, reacting based on what we've known, based on what we anticipate as fear, or we can be at the temple of love, responding. And oftentimes, in order to respond to life, We need to give ourselves space. We need to give ourselves time. We don't always need to know the answers, but we need to cultivate the trust. I have choice. I have choice. And out of this only good will come. And I'm going to give myself the space and time that I need in order to respond from a place of love. I love the word responsibility, our ability to respond. So, you know what I was saying about when you stay present and in the presence of love, you have this capacity to not only transform the now, you have the opportunity to open up a vast magical potential of future and recreate the past. You might think, how do you do that? What does she mean by that? Well, when I stand in the presence of love, when I stand at the altar of light within me, my experience of 9/11 is very different than most people's. It broke me open. And what I remember was the complete stranger that let me take a shower at their house. What I remember is the taxi driver who gave me $20 and dropped me off in Union Square. What I remember is the presence of sitting with others, eye to eye, heart to heart. What I remember is cheering on the first responders, saying thank you. What I remember is how it transformed my life in the most profound way. You have power over the stories that you tell. Choose wisely. And know that in any given moment, you can rewrite your story. You can recreate it. I personally, I look back on my life and I look back on the 94 people that I did that sharing with and 20-some years of working in those healing sanctuaries. And I am so grateful. I'm grateful for the way that my life went through a cataclysm in that short amount of time. I'm grateful for the cancer too, because I wouldn't be here without that. I developed empathy because I lived so many things that I had a knowing of. It's one thing to talk about love, it's another thing to live it, right? And we're all living it, and we're all being given that choice each and every day. So we live in the present. It doesn't matter what we chose yesterday. Yesterday's done. Let's stay here. It's much more powerful. It's much more welcoming. I think another thing is to create that space. I like to do it in the morning, the sacred time, the quiet time, to turn my phone off, to turn the TV, or if you have one, I don't have one, but just to make that space to be present with yourself, to speak aloud, to celebrate the birds, the beauty, the magnificence, to let that inform and to enrich and to strengthen, and take life one day at a time. Any more than that, it's too much. It's overwhelming. I want to leave you with a sweet little story that always makes me smile. And I believe it was written by Devon Curse. In a mother's womb were two babies. Do you know this one? Oh, you will in a minute. One asked the other, "Do you believe in life after delivery?" And the other replied, "Why, of course. There has to be something after delivery. Maybe we're here to prepare ourselves for what will be later." "Nonsense," said the first. "There's no life after delivery. What kind of life would that be?" And the second said, "I don't know, but there'll be more light than here. And maybe we'll walk with our legs and eat with our mouths. Maybe we'll have other senses that we can't even understand right now. And the first replied, "That is absurd. Walking is impossible, and eating with our mouths, ludicrous. The umbilical cord supplies nutrition and everything we need, but the umbilical cord is so short. Life after delivery is to be logically excluded." And the second insisted, "Well, I think there is something, and maybe it's different than here. Maybe we won't need this physical cord anymore." And the first replied, "Nonsense. And moreover, if there is life, then why has no one ever come back? Delivery is the end of life, and after delivery there is nothing but darkness and silence and oblivion. It takes us nowhere." "Well, I don't know," said the second, "but certainly we'll meet Mother, and she'll take care of us." And the first replied, "Mother? You actually believe in Mother? That's laughable. If Mother exists, where is she now?" You know? The second said, "She's all around us. We're surrounded by her. I think we are of her. Without her, this whole world wouldn't exist. It couldn't exist." And said the first, "Well, I don't see her. And so it's only logical to say she doesn't exist." To which the second replied, "Sometimes, when you're in silence and you really focus and you really listen, you can perceive her and you can feel her presence and you can hear her loving voice calling down from above." We are both babies, are we not? Thank you so much for your time today.